death among death. We were already dealing with the health disparities.
Yes.
And now we're dealing with the fact that if coronavirus does not get you,
white supremacy and the police will.
Yeah. Only Jordan Peele understands how both horrific and comedic it all is. Because this seems like it is straight out of some kind of cinematic horror thriller.
Okay. What's the name of it again?
It's called Chai and Gray.
Okay.
A date night with the doctors.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Chai
and Gray,
Date Night with the Doctors. We had initially thought to discuss another topic, but then came the events of this week, and we both thought it was very necessary to speak about the events that have recently occurred. So if this is news to anyone, on February 23rd, Ahmaud Arbery was, a 25-year-old Ahmaud Arbery was jogging and was brutally attacked. And I want to be clear in using those words to talk about the way in which Black people face daily terror.
Yes.
And are terrorized, and just how brutal of a death this was, unexpected, doing something like jogging, and was killed by a father and son.
In the middle of the day.
In the middle of the day. I guess we should start by just saying, first giving voice to the names of these men and women that have left this earth under such horrific terms simply for being Black. And then just being raw and very honest about how this makes us feel, you know, as an exercise in justice in itself. We don't get to have those moments sometimes. And so I think it's important just to say, how are you feeling?
Yesterday was the first time I saw the video. There was a young man killed on Facebook Live last night by the police. And in the case of young Ahmaud, those two people have been free since February 25th. We're going to get into that later. The father and son who actually killed him. Police killed Sean Reed yesterday in Indianapolis. Did not know they were being caught on Facebook Live. Did not know they were being recorded. Were heard making jokes about his murder. And we can go into that a little bit further later. And while we were sitting here preparing to do this broadcast, I happened to be looking through my news feed and found a third person who was killed on May 6th, who was killed after a simple fender bender, and the white gentleman who in Minnesota. And the white gentleman who killed him claimed that he got into an argument with the man he killed, and he saw him reaching into his waistband, claiming that he was with a street gang, a 39-year-old street gang member. All the victims were Black. All the perpetrators were white. And whenever I deal with, I'm dealing with anything like that, I know that people see my Blackness, they don't see a doctor. So that's where I am.
So how are you feeling?
I've been messed up since I saw that video.
Mhm.
And I have a sense of rage. I'm still at a point where I don't know exactly what to do with all these emotions. We're instructors, we're professors in higher education, and so we get to teach in Africana studies. I know that a young man, and one of my students, he actually said to me after his class, he's studying to be a lawyer, and he said that after taking this class, that he would now approach Black people much differently than he would have before this class.
Mhm.
So that's going to help somebody 10 years out. But what about today?
How many of us have to die in the meantime while the justice system corrects itself or further corrupts itself, while our students are transformed by these experiences, or we are able to sing the justice gospel long enough and well enough that people say, maybe there might be something to all of these Black deaths. That becomes infuriating and and just intolerable at a certain point. Like, how long can we go on like this? I mean, when I think of how I'm feeling at this moment, I'm trying to balance giving honor to these Black lives,
Yeah.
like not scrolling by one of them, remembering their story and hearing like all of the details that happen, so that I can talk about it in knowledgeable and in affirming ways to them and Black people, but also trying to guard myself personally against the fact that I know this could be you. Like, this could be these are uncles, brothers, fathers,
Mm-hmm.
and that anyone that I love, including women, and the ways that I've felt criminalized as a Black woman, this could be any one of us. Like, trying to guard myself against these kind of images, because I know I can't continuously live in that moment, and then feeling a sense of guilt for, like, saying I can't look at this today. I can't deal with this. But it's also the way that people I know and love could very easily succumb to this kind of violence against Black life in America.
Well, and I want to say this is going to be a short list.
Mm-hmm.
My friend, Sister Sandra Bush, posted this today. And these emotions don't come just because of the events over the past few days. Botham Sean, Etiana Jefferson, Jonathan Farrell, Stephen Clark, Jordan Edwards, Jordan Davis, Alton Sterling, Ayanna Jones, Mike Brown, Tamir Rice, Charleston Nine, Trayvon Martin, Sean Bell, Oscar Grant, Sandra Bland, Philando Castillo, Kerry Jones, John Crawford, Terrence Crutcher, Keith Scott, Clifford Jordan. I mean, the list is actually extremely long. Freddie Gray, Eric Garner, Amadou Diallo. I mean, these start representing a lifetime of these injustices.
And I think, like, what you talked about earlier with the experience that you had with the man yesterday, one thing that is ever present in my mind is that these forms of injustice, no matter how brutal they are, run from the same fount of white supremacy.
Yes.
Like they emerge from the same realities. And what connects us in this kind of struggle is that these forms of racism we have all experienced.
Now, put this against the backdrop of the protests going on around the country to reopen the economy by a bunch of poor white people to reopen the economy, and they're showing up to state capitals with assault rifles
and are being protected. They can expect that from their government in ways that our history tells us we cannot and we should not.
Yes.
I'm thinking with, as you say, states opening back up and this being such a dire necessity for governors to get their states reopened, just how, what a profoundly dark moment we're living in when you, among death, in the midst of a pandemic, where you have to go in and socially distance yourself. In the midst of all of that, Black life is still not safe. That we are dealing with death among death. We were already dealing with the health disparities.
Yes.
And now we're dealing with the fact that if coronavirus does not get you,
white supremacy and the police will.
Yeah. Only Jordan Peele understands how both horrific and comedic it all is. Because this seems like it is straight out of some kind of cinematic horror thriller. And we have to sit with that. And I think that's important to really chronicle what this moment was. And how it brings us to a number of other moments that we have lived through before. And what makes each one of these deaths like the last death and the last death, why we can't just get over it, because it continues to invade our present. In some ways, I guess the thing that it brings me to, this being cyclic, where do we go from here? What do we do with all of this? Is this just therapeutic, or like?
I don't know. I have not had an answer. So I'm going to leave it to you. What answers do you possibly have?
I think we grieve first, and we sit in that moment for a while, because Black life isn't always given that space that is important enough to mourn for its absence. And then I guess the scripture that's been playing in my head since all of this is Isaiah 1:17. Learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, plead the case of the widow. There's always, like you say, the Black folks, we expect the white folks, the Black folks always are a little disarming, that will come out and tell you in a lot of different ways to overlook this. And I think mostly just given like my area of study and my kind of circles about Black Christians who are like, don't worry about this. God will fight your battle. Don't be concerned with this. I rely on scripture that says, be concerned, be very concerned, and do something that reaches beyond your doorstep. So this has continuously forced me to rethink the work I do, how to make it not only public facing, but public engaging, of ways that I can do justice and make sure that my work is a constant meditation on Black people, Black grief, Black celebration, Black rising, but always justice oriented, to do the work of this scripture that says to defend the oppressed. And I think, yeah, you can reach out to your congressman and say, this is whack. But I think also you need to be asking yourself in this hour, what is the justice work? What is the work of God that can come from my hands? And that's going to look different for everybody in this moment, but I really think that's where it's at. I know a few years back when the deaths were really piling up, that was work that I was already thinking about. How do I integrate that into my scholarship? But I realized that I needed to be more emphatic about speaking out against corruption, principalities in high places, the rulers of the darkness of this world, and to name people like Trump, and to name corruption. And for a lot of people, I know that's
William Barr.
Yeah,
Let's name him.
Yeah, I know.
Mitch McConnell. Let's name him. And at this point, we want to hear from you.
Mm-hmm.
Leave your comments. Let us know what are you thinking? What are you feeling?
Mm-hmm.
Leave your comments below.
Yeah. Talk about how you're feeling and what are you going to do now?
Thank you.